There are many rules in Warhammer, both literal like the actual rules of the game, and unspoken rules that are mostly memes. But there are also cardinal rules, or if we were to use scientific terms, laws of Warhammer or just miniature war games in general. Well, let's talk about it. But welcome back everyone, it's me the Warhammer complaining guy, Reverend/Handy, destroyer of wallets and maker of terrible financial decisions. Back with another video that can hopefully earn your subscription and a like for the almighty YouTube algorithm. Also, if you have any cardinal rules of Warhammer, let me know in the comments down below. And a quick reminder, on the 23rd of January at these times, I will be streaming on YouTube and Twitch your best painted miniatures of 2025. So check out the community tab or Discord server for all the rules. So let's get this show on the road and talk about the cardinal rules of Warhammer. With the first one, of course, being the rule of cool. I've talked about the rule of cool in a lot of my other videos, and when talking about Warhammer or frankly any other miniature war game, I feel like it should always be the first rule because buying the models you think look cool for your collection assures that you'll have a better hobbying experience since you want to enjoy using your valuable time building or painting something interesting for your collection. This is why looking at every single faction before you buy your first or fifth army is always a good idea because then you also save money because God knows how expensive Warhammer will be in a year or two. But the rule of cool is a good cardinal rule to follow because remember, you're going to be the one saddled with assembling or painting this mountain of gray plastic or resin. So why not pick something that tickles your fancy like giant mechs, dwarves in space, big dudes in armor, bigger dudes in armor but gold, space murder hobos, robot Egyptians, and for the ladies, bug. And if 40k isn't your thing, there's always fantasy and Sigmar. Next is to always thin your paints. This is one of the basics of painting miniatures because it makes all the difference between a golden demon commendable entry model and an unholy abomination that might become a meme many years later. Many people struggle to know how to properly thin their paints due to not being familiar with the properties of the paints they're using. Learning to thin your paints will make all the difference in that expensive piece of plastic or resin you just bought, so it's important to learn the appropriate ratios to appease the Lord of Tutorials, Duncan Rhodes. I honestly recommend you leave the island that is the GW paint range because they're honestly becoming the Apple Barrel of miniature paints, although that's an insult to Apple Barrel and GW does have some good paints, but after trying other brands, GW is too inconsistent. But a short tutorial is to buy a medicine dropper like these, and when thinning your paints, add one drop at a time until you get a consistency like this, and congratulations, you now know a simple and repeatable way to precisely thin your paints. But after learning how to thin your paints, you also need to always remember to use two thin coats. And no, I'm not talking about one of the greatest paint ranges ever. I'm talking about the rule that makes sure your minis will have appropriate coverage with almost any color you use. That isn't a white paint, metallic, yellow, or orange by GW. Two thin coats isn't just a meme or cardinal rule of Warhammer, but honestly a rule for any project that involves miniature painting, because it ensures that any base coat is covered and that you have appropriate opacity for the color you're using. And yes, it might not take two thin coats every time, especially if it's a GW paint, but a lot of paint ranges nowadays will take 2 to 3 coats of your color choice to reach full opacity. But two thin coats makes all the difference in the final result, along with learning how to thin your paints. So remember, two thin coats, or else. But just because you think you're a better painter doesn't mean you should shame other people's paint jobs. There's a huge difference in critique and just being an asshole. Painting is all about having fun, making the vision in your mind come to life, because every single brushstroke and color choice was a painful endeavor to envision the final product. But you can't spell painting without pain, because the artist must suffer. Every single miniature wargamer suffers painting their miniatures, because we all develop our own painting styles that develop over time. So while some minis may not look great at the start of our journey, and remember, you probably thought your minis were also horrible when you first started painting, so don't paint shame other people's miniatures because there will always be someone better than you. So don't be a jealous asshole and instead encourage others to improve their skills. Okay, so I don't get why this even needs to be a thing, but before you ever think about going to the game store or a tournament, practice good hygiene. Nobody wants to smell BO or whatever you ate before you came to the game store, and no one wants to be around someone blessed by Nurgle. So please take a fucking shower, wear deodorant, and brush your fucking teeth. Because if you don't, nobody will want to play games with you, nobody will want to be your friend, and eventually you might even get banned from the game store or kicked out of the tournament because you smell like a great unclean one. Instead, be the great clean one. If you think you stink, you probably do. So do yourself a favor and clean yourself up before you even go outside. I know touching grass is scary to some, but you have to practice good hygiene before you go anywhere. Next up, for the love of the God Emperor or whichever chaos god you worship, transport your minis with care. Now this isn't just an elaborate sponsor transition, which it is. I'm gonna be brutally honest here. Too many times have I seen a beautifully painted army transported in a cardboard box or shoebox with minis jostling around, damaging the paint, parts breaking off, or worse, eating it on the concrete. Ask me how I know. We've spent hundreds of dollars on these miniatures, many hours of kit bashing and building them, and then hundreds of hours painting them to our standard of painting to match the minis that came before them. So why is it that so many people cheap out on protecting their beautiful paint jobs and meticulously kit bash miniatures with a shoebox or cardboard box? I did this once and then said never again because I nearly cried when my army hit the pavement and had some casualties. Thank God my resin dreadnoughts were spared. After that, I said never again, bought and made various transport cases that could protect my miniatures over the years, until I ended up with the carrying case from the sponsor of today's video, Tabletop Stronghold. If you play Warhammer or any other tabletop war games, do yourself a favor and get yourself a Mag Case 2.0 to protect your minis, since you should do everything possible to protect your hundreds of dollars of plastic, or thousands in resin. But no matter the size of your army, the Mag Case 2.0 comes in multiple sizes, and also doubles as a display case because you need to protect your minis not just from yourself, but from others too. The Mag Case 2.0 is the perfect candidate with its strong MDF construction, clear front display panel, and adjustable magnetic trays created by the all-powerful Magnet Wizard. But because the Mag Case uses magnets to secure your minis in place, you don't have to worry about a speed bump jostling the box your minis are in, damaging the paint. You'll always find the perfect Mag Case that suits your needs, like how I love my Mag Case Mini, because it not only perfectly fits my Custodes and Dark Angels army, but it also fits my entire Battletech collection. But if you want to help me help you, use my link in the pinned comment or description and use code CRAFT25 for 25% off your next order. So thank you Tabletop Stronghold for sponsoring this video. If you want to get any mag case or case and terrain combo that ships to pretty much anywhere in the world for free, go to tabletopstronghold.com. Next up is to make sure to be prepared. Warhammer games take upwards of 3 to 4 hours, and wasting time not only makes you look bad, but also wastes your opponent's time. Before you go to the game store, make sure you have everything, and I mean everything, like your rulebooks or stat cards appropriately marked for which units, detachment, and stratagems match your army. You can make a cheat sheet to streamline this, so no time gets wasted. Then make sure you of course have your army and your Mag Case 2.0, and you're not missing any minis. Have all the dice you need and your tape measure and maybe a spare in case it breaks, or just have an extra one for your opponent. And don't forget to pack some snacks and water, because you will get hungry and thirsty from the amount of moving around the table you're gonna do. But more importantly, make sure your car has enough gas before you start driving. But make sure on top of being prepared, you arrive on time to the game store. Everyone has a set schedule for the day, and time can be limited. So make sure you arrive on time for your game and not 30 minutes late, because it's going to take another 20 to 30 minutes just to set up and give the rundown of your army. Additionally, being late is not good etiquette when you agreed on that set time. However, being a few minutes late is fine. We all get stuck in traffic. But please let your opponent know if you're going to be late for any reason, either a few hours before the game or the day before. Arriving on time also shows that you actually give a damn about the game. When arriving late, it tells your opponent that you don't care about the time they set aside in their day to play against you. So please arrive on time. My time is valuable, and so is your opponent's. Next, if you're playing a game or just admiring a nicely painted miniature, don't touch other people's minis unless you ask them. This is one of the most sacred rules of Warhammer. So here's an example. You have a nicely painted mini. You spent over 100 hours painting and you want to enter it into Golden Demon. Then some Nurgloid walks up with Cheeto fingers and grabs the mini, ruining all those hours of work. Or your relatives are over and there's a youngling. Would you want them to pick up your miniatures? Hell no. There's a reason they're high up or locked in a display case. And a more relevant example I'm sure you're familiar with, stop asking, someone has a Titan or a large knight. You attempt to pick it up, underestimate its weight, and it crashes on the floor. Congratulations, you're now banned from the game store. Have to pay the person back, or you go to jail for destruction of property. But touching other people's shit without asking is a rule that should never be broken. always ask before you pick up any miniature, and ask them how to pick it up too. It might be fragile. There's a reason we're so protective of our miniatures, because I know you don't like it when people touch your miniatures without asking, so don't do the same. But the final most important rule of Warhammer is to have fun. Remember, Warhammer or any tabletop wargame is a hobby. Hobbies are meant to be fun, not a second job. So if you're starting to burn out, that's fine. Take a break and admire the work you've done until you're ready to start again. The way you have fun with Warhammer is all up to you, be it reading the books, playing the video games, painting miniatures, or playing the tabletop. You want to enjoy the time you spent painting and making friends along the way, because those are the memories that will stick with you forever. So just remember to have fun, because in the end, that's honestly the most important rule. Anyways, thanks for watching the video, and a huge thank you to the giggest of the chads right here, the channel members and Twitch subscribers. So if you too want to be a Giga Chad and help fund these stupid adventures, consider becoming a member of either for access to the member section of the Discord and other things. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe along with Super Hype if you're on mobile, but have to go make more terrible financial decisions. So I'll see you all in the next video, and remember, when you play Warhammer, being poor is a choice.